Season 9, Episode 39, number 387 of the Decoded Podcast. And I'm back with my regular setup, which is nice.
As in, oh, right, because you're not
Yeah.
mobile. You're not
I'm
mobile
not
this
mobile.
week.
I am locked in here in the room and I like it.
It's awesome. I swear your audio has changed. Something about that mic has changed. I
For
don't
the
know what
worse,
it
I
is.
guess.
What's that?
For the worse?
No, well, put it this way. I think since both of us moved off of our big mics, like the Snowball and you have the Yeti or whatever, the sound is different. I don't know how to describe it exactly. It sounds like even though the mic is very close, I can't see. Oh yeah, so the mic's like right in front of your face.
Yeah. Testing.
Yeah, no, I mean it's
Oh.
clear. It's clear, and maybe it's the difference. Like I don't know how my audio sounds because I'm just using the AirPod earbuds, so I actually have never actually heard myself on them, and I've never bothered to go back and watch any of our tape to see do I like the sound of me. Maybe I should just to see. I don't know how to describe it. It's got a little bit of a hollow sound to it, just a little bit. But I don't remember that being a thing with those before. I think I remember that at some point they sounded differently. So I don't know. Did you change any of the sort of equalizer settings on it or
No?
No? Okay.
So I have no idea, but who knows, dude?
It is the clank. It is the spirit of clank kind of a thing. Spirit of clank.
Hey, good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Gary. On the desktop that I put upstairs in the office, I've set the screensaver to flip through photos of stuff, and a lot of the photos I have, the drive it's pulling from, are photos of a lot of the old decoded drawings that I used to do. It's kind of cool. I'll walk in there most times I turn off the computer, I don't leave it up and running, but I'll come in and the screensaver's running. I'm like, oh shit. The one that was up the other day, I don't know if you remember the wacky Easter bunny. I drew this really evil looking Easter bunny for one episode. And then another one. Do you remember that one at all or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I sound better now?
Yeah, you do. That actually sounds more how it used to be.
So now I know what the problem is. For some reason, the mic was hooked up to the webcam. It was the webcam mic was picking up my...
So when I said the distance, I was noticing the distance. It was because it literally was. It was a different microphone.
Hey, Hazel. Oh, she can't hear.
She can't. She's just lounging right here. So yeah, the other one that popped up was the drawing I did of someone kind of wrapped around shoving their head up their own ass. And I don't even remember what the topic was, but it was just like a Cirque du Soleil bend around with someone putting their head all the way up their butt.
Interesting. I don't remember that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to go check to see. I'd have to go check to see what the season and the episodes were. What was that one? Oh, the other one too that came up. I was like, yeah, it's funny to look at the pictures because right away I don't know if it's sparking up. So I look at the timestamp on it, the season, the timestamp, and the drawing. I'm like, yeah, I can probably figure what was going on at that point in the year. One of them was I drew a finish line, and it was finish line. It was sort of. But the finish line, when you cross the finish line, it went right off a cliff. So that one, I'm like, yeah, I kind of get that. That sort of makes sense to me. Wacky. And then the cigarette one, of course, the cigarette one that pops up. The episode we were talking about our dads and both of them being smokers. The sort of the memory of that. So. Yeah, it's cool. And again, I don't leave the computer up, but one of the drives obviously that's connected to it. One of the drive. Come on, dude. You have so much space on the couch here. There we go. She's a leaner kind of a dog. So all of a sudden she's like 60% just flopped across you. I know, you're fine. Just relax. Yeah. So that was, that's not much of a lead into today, but I've been kind of digging that. And it feels like a little bit of a gift from the universe. Some picture pops up and then it fades. And I even have the ones on there from way back in the day, like from season 1, where it was just how much stuff could I write? How much text could I write on the page? So good stuff.
The rabbit I used in one of my videos.
Oh, do you? Well, I did. I did 2. I've done 2 rabbits that I remember. I have one that was doing a binky. There's a drawing of a rabbit doing a binky, and then the other one is just an evil looking Easter.
I think I've used
Easter
him.
bunny. Oh, have you?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it while we chat.
That's cool. You used it in one of your videos?
Yeah. I made like an Easter video one year. It's just a little one of like it was like a video of all the things my kids got for Easter. The fun part of Easter, and then the second half of the video is Jesus basically rising from the dead and being like, "Don't be afraid." It's like it's just it's that conflict of the reason for the season, but also the reality of the privileged, that type of thing. Yeah. And I think for some reason, your evil bunny is used. I'm going to see if I can find it. It's on Instagram somewhere. But anyway, I know that bunny, but I don't know the Binky bunny.
I just found, and I don't know, do I have all of them in here? But there's no way that I do, because there's way more than. Oh wait, no, it's loading them up. Season 4. Yeah, this is, so that's wait. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so there's Evil Bunny.
Oh, let me see if I can add to the stage. Evil Bunny.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I believe that's the one I used.
So that's season 4.
Oh.
Get all the adverts. There's another season 4. Well, that one was good too. I like that one. The mousetrap finger on the phone. Yeah, see this, it's funny. Like I found this brown paper and I was using just this brown paper.
You went wild with the brown paper.
Yeah, I enjoyed using the brown paper. I don't know, a carrot, what the hell? June. Okay, we're getting into sort of pride. That one's okay. That one's good. Fill your cup kind of mindset as we get to the end. 2021, dude. So this is COVID times, eh?
COVID times.
Yeah. I don't know if I did any for, July 10th. There's the summer school version. There's the summer school. That's cool. I have 146 photos of decoded stuff. I don't know if that's correct as far as the number of drawings I did. I don't know. I got no clue.
As I'm scrolling through my Instagram, I just scroll through Tom Hooten's.
Tom Hooten. Yeah, there's definitely, I definitely don't have all of them up in here. There's no way. But it is wacky. It's wacky to sort of pull them up and slowly move through them and try and, like the one that I was looking for. Do you remember the tartar sauce one I did? Forget why you and I were even talking about tartar sauce.
I don't remember that.
I'm sure it was important at some point.
Well, food related, so that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. I think that's probably it. All right, I unshared.
So I'm gonna share.
What you got?
I don't even know how to friggin' do this. I was gonna use the F word there. No reason for that though.
I dropped that one last week. Oh, this is interesting. So right now, Hazel's like, this is her like, what's going on?
Oh,
she can hear something upstairs.
Oh,
So it's funny for her to kind of have this perspective. So she to hear things above her is kind of a new space.
So let's see here. I posted this. Oh, okay. I posted a couple of things.
There we go, the chicken sandwich.
But then I also made this video. So maybe, sorry, there it is, a privileged Easter part 2, and then I had your bunny.
Oh, there we go.
But then see, this is just all that got music playing in the background, all these tweets, right? It's like, this is Easter at my house, which is friggin' awesome, right? Like, you got all these snacks or whatnot.
Of course.
And then it shifts and it says Easter part 1, I think, with your bunny still. It's coming up. Oh, but yeah, I remember using that thinking, I like this. Here it comes. A privileged Easter part 1. Yeah, so part 1 is what really happened that led to Easter, and then part 2 is the privilege that comes with it over here at my house.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
in many houses.
Yeah, in many houses, but so the COVID, it's funny that you mentioned COVID, because I feel like there have been some changes since COVID. That, is it just me, or do we live, things are different? Are things different, or are things not different? I just feel like they're different post COVID. You know what I'm saying? Or not really? Like, do you find in your day-to-day, do you ever think COVID came, it stamped us, and now things are different? Or no, you're just like, COVID happened and now we're just living again?
Here's what I've noticed is that when something, I don't have a specific thing to say about whether things are different. Here's what I have noticed related to that, is that often if we take it about let's take it about our like work context, when something goes kind of weird at school and it's unexplainable, the meme is, well, that's because of what happened during COVID. So when you have this kind of like a weird thing, like, why is this person behaving like that? Or why is this procedure like this? Or why can't we get this resource anymore? Or why is the leadership acting this way? I feel like the trump card in that moment is, well, it kind of got started during COVID. So we have this phantom kind of looming over questionable moments and questionable decisions that gets attributed to some sort of decision making, some sort of resource appropriation or realignment that happened during COVID. And I feel like we're throwing a lot of OSSL, why are literacy marks down? Well, remember during COVID. Why can't the kids self-regulate? Well, you remember what happened during COVID. Like, we're in the echo of it. So it's nothing, I have, well, some of those are kind of specific examples. I can't give you a timestamp on it, and I can't give you something specific for me that I would say has or hasn't changed. But I've noticed in dialogue, when people kind of get to a space and they don't have an answer, many times someone will kind of attribute it to some decision that was made or something that was started. Oh, we can't do this like this anymore because it was only during COVID that we did that, and the funding just ran out or the support just ran out. So that's what I'm noticing connected with that. And not good or bad, just I've heard that enough now that I'm like, oh, I guess it's a thing. I guess that's how we talk about it like a moment in history that had an indelible impact on how we do things. And now it's untouchable. And it's also, to a degree, people don't kind of move. I don't often find in that moment that they go on to, okay, so now that we've named it, let's do something different. It's like everyone gets kind of quiet and earnest and like, yeah, COVID. And then the meeting's over. Like, we don't actually get through to the, well, how do we operate differently? Because things are different. Things are different. And I'm not looking, like, I know that there's still individuals that COVID as a brand name is a really big basket for things that kind of have gone wrong in the world in this recent decade timeline, right? I mean, in some ways, the fact that was our transition, in the beginning, very much a part of the beginning of this decade, it has earmarked this sort of era of time. I don't know, at some point when it'll just become a discussion point in the past as opposed to an anchor. But right now, I still feel people are almost releasing their responsibility to do something differently because of something that happened during COVID. Like, we can't fix this. We can't quite do this thing. Have you noticed that at all? That particular frame, like that sort of people talking about current events and things and still attributing it to, it's a symptom. This current way of doing is a symptom of, because of what we did back in COVID times.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where that popped up a couple of times on my trip. Just this notion, things used to be like this, but because of COVID, now they're like this. You know what I mean? And it's like, but I agree with you that it's mostly used, like, for example, working from home was a thing we had to do. And some employers are now calling people back saying you must return. This whole COVID working from home thing, that's dead in the water. It's time to come back. You don't have an option anymore. And people are like, well, but it's working. This is working out great. It's almost like, in that case, the people, right? Not the power. The people are saying, no, we like this. We can still work. We can do it from here. And the power is like, but then in other situations, the power says, well, we can't do that because, well, we used to do it this way, but now we don't do that anymore because of COVID. It's almost like just people are leveraging it in the best way that will work for them. And I guess that's human nature. It was, though, when I think back to that time, man, I don't know what to do with that time. It was just such a blip in eternity for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was so drastic, right? Nothing before that had ever been. There have never been drastic measures taken for anything in my life, and then that happens, and it's like, that was drastic. I was talking about this with my friend's wife, and she was saying how her perspective was when this first kind of hit and everybody stopped going to school for that first, from March to June.
Mm-hmm.
She said she could understand that, but then the next year when we had a couple of blips where everybody had to stay home, she couldn't understand. And I said to her, whoa, like, slow down here a little bit. Think back to, we still didn't really understand what was happening. And I said to her, and I know you're not a teacher, so you don't know, but I'm a teacher, and I was in buildings with all these little kids who are constantly sneezing and slobbering and slopping, and there's liquids and fluids everywhere. Like, I'm just saying, if you don't work in an elementary school, you don't truly know man, there's fluid exchange 24/7, like kids licking their desks, and like it's gross. Okay, it's gross, and I lived it. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to work with 7-year-olds who are constantly things dripping out of their nose. They don't wash their hands for anything. Like and every year I would get sick because of it. It was just what's the word? Tradition. October rolls around and I'm done for 2 weeks because I just can't. My body's like, you can't deal with all this. And so then when you add COVID to the mix, in my opinion, I said to her, I was giving her one of these, like, whoa, take it easy. Like, we didn't not go to work to cause all of you problems. I'm like, if you just think about, and if you actually listen to me and trust what I'm telling you, it's disgusting. And elementary school can be gross. So when you add in this whole COVID layer where nobody really understands what's happening, and we don't know how sick you're going to get and how long it lasts and all that stuff, I'm like, it made perfect sense to not be at school. Now, did it cause problems? Yeah, 100%. There was a job created for me because of the problems that came with COVID and not going to school.
Yep.
So I fully acknowledge that. I don't pretend like it was perfect at all. It was imperfect, but I would say it worked for 90% of the people involved. And of course, there's 10% that it didn't work for. But just like now, going to school works for 90% of the people and doesn't work for 10% of them. So these are numbers that remain with us, whether we like what's happening or we don't like what's happening.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting. It kind of caught me off guard, and then I was just looking at things from a different lens the entire time. Like, oh, what was this? I don't know. It's just a nice marker to have. What was happening before COVID? It's like 9/11 as well. Lots of things.
Well, I would compare it. Like, this is like, I think it has that historical significance, and I'm not suggesting to forget, but in the small scale, what I feel a little bit, or what I've noticed seems to be happening, is that sometimes the mentioning of that is a way to not deal directly with what the thing actually is in front of you. So, I've had a few different parents still attribute, their child's performance rate now, not like they want to say that it's the roots that are the issue. And part of what we can't do is we can never pull the roots. This is weed management, right? Like, it's not saying that somehow the amount of time it takes to just name what set your kid's performance in an awkward or offside direction. The actual event, in many cases, is not still playing out. It was a redirect. So all we can do at this point is sort of support where we're at. And sometimes the time spent, again, decoding, pulling apart, demystifying what happened during that time is not useful. We just have to kind of work on what's in front of us. And then we get bogged down in, well, but back in COVID, like, this all happened back in grade 6 during COVID. I'm like, okay, I get that. And I recognize that. I was there too. How do we, it's not even, how do we remain present in our discussion? We don't have to move forward, but just how do we remain present? And I think sometimes those discussions where, if a learning gap or behavioral development or a relational trauma that happened for them, I get it. So what's the work that we need to do to make that manageable? Because if it's done permanent damage, then you're going to be working through the damage forever and ever and ever. If it kind of knocked you off balance, well, what can we do right now to get you back on balance? But what I find I have less tolerance to, and it's probably when I say tolerance, I don't have the self-control or emotional regulation to deal with, is where that's all that wants to be talked about. So we get stuck there. I have people that I follow and I talk to. I a teacher colleague, Jo. She posts quite often about the health complications that have come from long COVID, right? And from reading her posts, it has foundationally changed how she lives her life now. She's still the symptoms that she has coming through it. That notwithstanding, she's still seeking answers to sort of manage her day to day and to become better, right? She's still posting up, informational bits, and, this is how it's sort of her sort of ones about how other people like her sort of advocacy bits, but she's also striving to understand it at a deeper level. Everybody in their own path. And in many ways, we've had this conversation, go back to the 2020, 2021 summer school, and you and I were both saying how, there was a lot to what we learned about being in that mode. But many ways you and I we may have been part of the cohort of like, this is terrible, this is horrible, this is really sad, this is scary. But you and I also put up posts about, this was really useful. This actually created a space where I learned new things. The pause it created, the new ways to deliver pedagogy, how we connected with people, our patience, our tolerance, how we navigate the world. Like, what we got derailed out of were some things that weren't useful to us. And I'm still using some of those connectivity tools and pedagogical tools and system tools. But I find I'm still cautious to provide positive evidence in these discussions. I'll sort of stay neutral and just do more listening, because I still haven't found a lot of people that speak positively about their experiences during COVID. In a big way, you're sort of like a poster child for how it can be leveraged in a really interesting way to make change in your life that to a certain degree had very little cost to you. You were able to sort of participate and sort of engage in an opportunity that has allowed you to make a pretty fundamental change in your career, but not like you're exploiting it. It's just the path that was opened up because of it. So that's a huge positive right there, where, there is a story, whether or not you would tell this, but there's a multiverse where someone like you says, this was fantastic. Like, in COVID actually helped re-energize my interest in my own career. And people are like, really? You're like, well, here's the opportunity that popped up. Now, whether or not you've ever had the opportunity to frame it that way to anyone, I don't know how many people would tolerate that conversation. I definitely would. In this pod, it definitely would. This is what we do. We decode. We decode, right? We sort of accept the fact that there's more to this educational and dad life and dude life. Like, there's more to it. So just to sort of be in that convo, I think, has been a sound element to all of our discussions. But me observing your path through there, it kind of benefited you. I would observe that. Challenges, yes. Still the hurt, still the frustration, still the confusion, all that stuff happened. I know you had said it sucked for the teaching, and we both said it sucked for the teaching, but there was also, you and I had a style of teaching that worked well. We had an understanding. The diversity in our pedagogy allowed us to kind of navigate that space. And it's not like we had premeditated that. That was just our interest. So when people said, okay, we're switching to online, we're like, cool, this is going to be like interactive podcasting. Like, we were already in this space of like, I can do that. I just going to see, hey, want to go upstairs? Go ahead. See if I can show you. So she's going over to the stairs right now. Mm-hmm. Can you see her there in the bottom? So she's like, I do this? Can I do this? Oh, she's maybe not.
It's got to be the holes, in between.
Well, you can't actually see the holes per se, and she's not too concerned. Hey. Az. No. Go on upstairs. Go. Up, go. Okay, she's coming back.
She's like, but if I go up, I can't come back down.
Yeah, she's just like, She's snuffing around. Yeah. So, you want to go upstairs? Go ahead. Oh, no, she's coming back. She's like, I think I got to go lie on the couch.
Is she wearing shoes?
Yeah. So she's got, oh, she's still listening though. So we took her, when I took her to get groomed, when I took her to get groomed. So her particular breed, she friggin' grows hair everywhere. Like she's a very freaking dense, hairy dog. Undercoat, overcoat, long coat. Between the golden retriever and the poodle breed, like very dense coat. So one of the effects of that is that she gets hair grown out of her ears like a 95-year-old man. Like it's just, there's so much hair that grows out of there. And what I've done in the past is I've told them, so there's two different ways to remove hair from dogs' ears. If you're very skilled, they're both versions are fine. If you're not very skilled, one of them is not great for the dog. So there's a way to get the hair out of the ears that's called plucking. And it literally is, pulling the hairs out. There is some pain for the dog, but it's a highly effective way to get right down into the actual ear, whatever, like down early in the ear, because she's not so bad, but the wax and the hair buildup down there you can get infection. It can become irritated. So anyways, I forgot to tell them, don't pluck. And it was a different groomer that had her. So what happened was the plucking naturally creates some rawness. The dog doesn't understand rawness. All they understand is they want to relieve it. So they start scratching. And because she can scratch quite hard with her hind legs, she scratched the inside of her ears because of it. And there was some bleeding and some literally like little welts in there. So we have a cone that we had on her, but when she has the cone on, she'll like walk up to a wall and just stand there staring at it for 20 minutes. She won't move. It's quite remarkable. Like, and you'll call her and she won't come over. Like the cone is effective up to a point. So instead I said, well, how about this? Those are her, again, back to the idea that she constantly has so much hair on her foot pads. Those are just her winter boots. So they're just like things that we can put on her feet when she goes out in the ice and snow, so she doesn't get salt or ice in her pads, which can cut them up like any dog it would happen to. So I said, let's just put her boots on her hind feet. So what she can do now, it's kind of like, it's funny when we hear her trying to scratch her ears, it sounds like thump, 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 like she's punching herself in the head. She can't get her claws down into there at all. So yeah, she's wearing hind booties, her winter booties.
Got it.
And she gets, and I'm sure dog owners out there, they're like, yeah, I get it. That's a good hack. I'm glad we had the boots because it's better. Like she doesn't love walking around in them. If she's in motion, she's okay. But every once in a while, I'll look over at her and I can see her. She brings her leg up to her face. And she's just like, what the hell is this thing? Like she's literally staring at this thing over her foot, but she's pretty compliant. You don't want to go upstairs? No? She's like staring at me. COVID.
I always say, you're right. If it wasn't for COVID, man, I can't believe where I'm at right now in my career. Just the
you'd be still in elementary likely.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, we don't
know for sure.
We don't know for sure, but I would not
likely.
I remember that you probably remember that I wasn't like looking to make a move at that time.
No. It came up as a result of that.
Yeah.
It came into the discussion. You were thinking admin. That was kind of there's still that's kind of floated through your career combos, but there was no, you were grounded in elementary. There was no real, like, what would high school be like?
There was no even consideration. Like there were moments of, I'd have moments of, oh, that'd be cool if I were in high school, but that was it. Like there was no motivation to try to get my high school qualifications or anything like that. You get what I'm saying? Like when I would work with people, like just yesterday, I was cleaning out the office and I found a paper version of a presentation I did with the head of guidance at my kids' school, Sean. And he's a high school guidance counselor, but him and I hit it off. We met on a committee, and then we ended up doing some innovative, cool work. And it was neat because I was the elementary classroom teacher, and he's the high school head of guidance. And together, we're talking about these cool things that you can do in school. Dude, even at that time, I remember going to visit him at the high school to talk about putting this presentation together, and it was like Disneyland to me. This very big building with all these different rooms, and very different than elementary. Even at that time, it was like, oh, this would be cool. And then I'd walk away from that thought because there were so many what appeared to be barriers to me moving into high school. There were so many of them, right? There was no jumping off point. Like re-engagement gave me the opportunity to work with high school students and to be in those high school environments and to make those high school connections with administrators and guidance counselors and social workers. None of that existed before COVID. None of that existed. I knew Gary, right? But I knew Gary, I met him at a Super Bowl party. And now look, like Gary and I, we'll go have coffee together after school on a weeknight when he's not held back by his job. That's the little dig I want to put in there. Actually, I don't need to dig. I just use my wand, do some Harry Potter magic.
I like it.
Anyway, so and now that I'm at where I'm at, you should see the look on people's faces when it comes up that I was an elementary teacher for 20 plus years. They're like, what? Oh, that was just you getting your feet wet for this. I'm like, no. There was no getting my feet wet for this. That was my job. Like I was pushing hard in innovation, in leadership. I was pushing hard. I was mastering those spaces, that space.
Yeah.
I wasn't just like living in it. I was doing things in it. It's very interesting. And people look at me like they totally dismiss it. That's the one thing about secondary I found. People dismiss my experience. They just look at me as, oh, are you brand new? I'm brand new to secondary. Oh, but you're brand new. Until we're in a caseload situation, I'm decoding an OSR like a boss because I understand what the elementary teachers said and all the data and the documents from elementary. I recognize
which most secondary people don't.
Well, they pretend like they don't care. They're like, it doesn't matter.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that's just the safe. It's the I don't care or I don't have to understand that. Like it's not really a part of my reality. But developmentally, what you understand about kids' growth through education is so much deeper than someone that is taught at high school for 20 years. You figure out teenagers pretty quickly once you get there. 1-2 years, you're like, okay, they're older humans. I'm fine. What you don't get by staying at high school is the learning that comes along with impact and depth and shape and tone and context of some of that early data that happens along the path, grade 3, grade 6, whatever, like those things that happen. We dispense with it, right? So elementary, I've always felt is far more process oriented and high school is more outcome oriented. Like produce. High school is very much about publish or produce. Just get it done, get the credit, move on. I found that elementary is more about looking at how we get those credits. How do we learn? The accountability, I think, is different. Yeah, the accountability is different.
Lots of thoughts and feels about all that. Just, yeah, man, it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I have found, I'd like to add this too before we move on, if you want. Mm-hmm. I've found now that I feel like the elementary people I kind of grew up with have dismissed me. I feel like they're I know.
Have you been kicked off the island?
I think they kind of look at you now like they've forgotten that I spent so much time and effort and work down there.
Like, has that happened where you're actually talking to an elementary person per se, and they're kind of mansplaining you something that you're like, no, remember, like I was there. I know that. And they kind of have the, oh yeah. Right. Sorry. Like, how have you noticed that you're not as tight as you used to be?
I noticed in the way that they so I don't have a particular example. I'm just thinking in general when I come across somebody and they're like, "Oh, where are you at now?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm at Benny's." And they're like, "What? High school?" I'm like, "Yeah." And it's one of those situations where there's just not enough time to explain the story because it's a story. And you know what I would love sometime is if I connected with somebody like that and I'm like, "You got 30 minutes? Let's go sit over here. I'll buy you a drink. I'll buy you lunch. I'll buy you a sandwich. Let me just tell my story." That would be friggin' hilarious, but that doesn't happen. But maybe we'll make that happen. They look at me like, "What?" And then I feel as though there's well, now you're over here. So in actual fact, now that I talk about it, I feel like I'm stuck in the middle. The people in secondary they look at me like I'm just like a whiny kid who's moved up into elementary and I'm a newbie because I don't have any experience. So therefore, nothing I did before I got to to secondary matters. And then I'm feeling like the elementary folk are like, "Oh, you're in high school now. Like you don't understand what's happening here." I'm like, "Oh, one of the reasons why I went to high school is because I completely understand what's happening there." And I was ready to kill. I didn't want to do any of that elementary stuff anymore. I didn't want to be part of that ecosystem. I was so upset and tired of that ecosystem. Thank God I was able to move to secondary because it brought me some energy. Like again, okay, I'm about to go down a rabbit hole that maybe I shouldn't, but I'm gonna.
Strap in.
Okay, so here's the newest thing, okay? And thank God we only have 2 listeners because good morning, Rochelle from the lake. Don't worry about being late. I'm happy you're at the lake. That's great. You know what I've been getting lately?
I don't, but I do want to know.
Oh, you're going into guidance now. Oh, well, you know that guidance counselors, they do stuff in the summer, right? And the last week before school starts, guidance counselors come into the school, right? And I'm like, why are you talking to me that way? Why are you acting like I think guidance is a joke?
Is it the tone or the text? Which is the one that you're finding harder to sort of like accept?
It must be the tone because it's like, oh, you're in guidance now. You know it's not as easy as you think it is. And I'm looking
so it
around.
Sounds like their judgment. It sounds like they're sort of like the judginess of it or the assumption of it. Yeah.
And it's like, I just kind of look at them. I'm like, are you kidding me? First of all, okay, so you think I'm in guidance because it's easier? Second of all, I did tell somebody, I'm like, this is a dream come true. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I started my career in guidance. And I never in a million years thought I would end up in this place again. So to me, it's like I won the lottery that I'm getting this opportunity. And it is an opportunity because everybody's looking at me like, well, you're the new guy. You're going to have to learn everything. And I'm like, when in the last 2 years in secondary, I would like somebody to tell me when I wasn't learning my craft. I'd like somebody to tell me
when did I stop? Yeah.
When they saw me sitting in a corner doing nothing and just like doing nothing. And what I mean by that is and you know, because you actually listen to me, I think you care, and my family will tell you. Anybody who knows me, and if you know me and I'm not like this, then speak up. But man, I've been tearing things up, trying to figure things out and learn things and communicate and collaborate with people to try to help kids the whole 2 years. And I know what's coming. I know the hammer that's about to hit me across the face in September. But it is a hammer that I'm interested in getting smacked across the face with. I bought my special helmet. I'm ready to rock, right? I know what's going to happen. I don't know the job and I know I'm going to get hit. But I'm going to get hit. So I'd like to get hit with something I'm actually interested in engaging with.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a dream come true. So this business of, I guess people just don't know me, and that's okay. But they're just the tone of, well, you know that there's work to be done in guidance, right? And I'm like, when did I say there wasn't? And did I don't care if I don't care, but I am interested. Why you think that I might think that guidance means I never have to work again? Because, and then there's some people that tell you, well, I would never do that in a million years. I don't want to deal with this kid's problem and that teacher's issue and these parents in my face. I don't want to deal with it. And I'm like, well, great, because I do. That's what I would prefer to deal with and work with. So that's been interesting. Oh, you're going into guidance. Oh, you know that they work, right? And I'm like, well, did I say that they didn't? Or do you think that I think that they don't? That's been the newest thing. And it's interesting. But again, dude, I'm so happy that I'm in the second half of life and I can talk to you about this. I can communicate this to you. And at the end of the day, I don't really care. I don't care what they say or do or think. I care about like what my family thinks, what my good friends think, and how I can be positively influenced. But at the end of the day, just like Jimmy's teaching social sciences, I don't care what Jimmy does or why he's doing it. Just go do your thing. Leave me alone. But that's a new one that I haven't brought to your attention. Just this business that they kind of look at you. They either look at you and they're like, you're a brave person for wanting to work with all that. But then there's the other side of, you know that they work, right? You know that you have to work, right? Well, when have I stopped working?
Yeah.
Because the IEP stuff, man, that was like, I still think of my first year doing that, and it was like nonstop, like nonstop cognitive engagement, right? Like, and I part of the problem maybe is because I did want to do a good job. I do want to do a good job. I want to minimize the issues that land on a principal's desk, and then they call you in and they're like, explain this. I was always like, how do I minimize me having to explain a situation that may look like it wasn't done right or whatever the case is? That's just a point of pride for me. But there have been a few times where things did land on my principal's desk and he's called me. He's like, hey, can we talk about this? I'm like, give me 10 minutes. I just need 10 minutes. I'll be in your office. I got things to print off for you. And it was funny. Jordan be like, oh, really? I'm like, I'll be there in 10. Hang up, find these emails, these pivotal emails that when I'm writing back to a parent, I'm thinking, oh, this can be big. If this parent goes this way or that way, this is going to be big. So I'm going to make sure that what I say is legit and that is like, it's legit. I can back it up. I can do what I say I'm going to do, or I tell them I can't make this happen because it's beyond me. Right. Anyway, and then you show up and it's like, hey, read these 5 emails. They'll tell you everything you need to know. And you'll see the course that I took with this situation. And my hope is that the principal will say, oh, great. Okay. Thanks for the info. Everything you said here, you either did or couldn't do. And you made it clear that this is not something we do. This is not something you do. You can't make this happen. You can't, this isn't your lane, so you're not speaking to it, right? And that happened a couple of times where I left my principal's office really happy that I'm like, I did the right thing. And then there were other times that, you know, where I'd leave my vice principal's office and be like, oh shit, I did that wrong. And I'm glad that they told me in the nicest possible way that I did it wrong and how I have to do it next time so it's not wrong. And I laugh because I think I just got in shit. And they'd probably tell you, no, he wasn't in shit. But it's like, I know what you're telling me I did something wrong, and you're trying to do it in a way to make it appear as though you're disguising it. Just come out and say it. You didn't do this right. This is how and then they don't tell you how it's supposed to be done because they don't want to tell you how. But I'm like, no, you need to tell me how I do this right. And they're like, well, there's no formula. And I'm like, well, I'm looking for a formula. What is the formula? And Gary's probably laughing right now. And so is Rochelle, because they're both leaders in the system. And it's like, no, well, you don't tell people X, Y, Z. You give people a framework and you let them make their own decisions. And I'm like, sometimes you just need to tell me what the X, Y, Z is, because I'm going to use that. And then the next time I'm sitting in a situation, somebody says, why'd you do that? I'm going to say, because Gary told me X, Y, Z. Now, Gary doesn't want that, but I'm not doing it in a mean-spirited way. I'm just doing it. My supervisor told me that this is how it's done. So if you don't like it, then bypass me and go to them. I don't need to hear your shit. I did what I was instructed to do. That's the other thing too. I'm in that space, bro. I don't want to play these games. Why'd you do it like this? Because I was instructed to do it like that. And that's not bad. There's a protocol and a process. It's predictable, or it's supposed to be. Anyway, you're in guidance. You know they have to work, right? I'm like, yeah, okay. I guess I've been showing you that I don't want to work. I don't know, and I don't care. The people in guidance will hopefully realize I'm here to work. I'm here to learn. I'm here to help. Just like the people in spec ed, maybe they don't think I work. I don't know. But none of them matter. The only people that matter are my supervisors, theoretically. And nobody's telling me I suck and I'm not doing my job. So until they tell me that, I'm assuming I am doing my job and I'm doing an okay job. They're not in charge of me. And if somebody has an issue, hopefully they'll just come and talk to me about their issue.
Mm-hmm.
So all that said, I'm learning a ton. I'm leaving work feeling okay. And I've got my brand new helmet ready to get smacked across the head in September and October and November as I learn how to be a guidance counselor and the processes that come with that and the X, Y, and Zs that come with that. And people telling me, well, there's not really an X, Y, Z. Every situation is different. I get that. But give me a framework. There has to be a framework. When a kid comes with this issue, will you tell me I'm reinventing the wheel every time? No, I'm not. There's a process. There's a protocol. What is it and how do we work through it? If you can give me those, then my cognitive processes, my CPU can put energy into different places, and I can have some automaticity, to go through those processes and protocols as best as I can. So anyway, I don't know if I ever mentioned that to you, but you're in guidance. You know they work, right? Like there's stuff to do over the summer and you got to come in early. Yeah, okay. Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
It is funny because it's not entirely true either. No, there isn't. There's nothing to be done over summer if you don't want to do things over summer. But there is that sort of like there's mystique. There's certain positions that have mystique around it that even while someone's explaining it to you, you're like, well, I'm not gonna completely destabilize your understanding of this because it's not important to me to educate you right now. So I'm gonna leave you with your misunderstanding of it. But I do kind of want to address this like somehow you think I don't know what I've gotten into. I appreciate your care and concern. I'm good. I'm good. When I was moving from Access over to working in intensive autism at a different school entirely, Pam, my social worker, said something similarly. And I think it was coming from a place of care and concern. And it was also based on her perception of how I move through the world. So I'm partially responsible for that because that's my projection, right? People get to know the parts of me that I let them know, and then they'll build what they know based on just what they observe. So it's kind of like a 50-50 sometimes. How am I marketing myself? When I came into Access, there was an irreverence to me coming in, and also there was a bit of I think because I was what's the word? I was unpredictable in how I would go about adjusting programming. There was a lot that I wanted to change really quickly, and I didn't often give any indication as to how I was going to zig or zag. So I think that on one hand can be very thrilling to work with someone that's like that, but it can also be a little bit destabilizing if you can't really read how someone's going to move next. So I do believe that her comment was coming from a place of, okay, Clough, I get it. You really like change, but this group that you're going to work with, you're going to have to be far more tactical. You're going to have to give more heads up. You're going to have to be able to give cues and sort of systems. I did have a moment, though, where I took it as a little personally, but then I realized she's only commenting on what I've presented to her. She doesn't know that side of me. She's not actually suggesting it doesn't exist. In fact, I've just never shown it to her. I've actually never shown her my hyper-organized side, my technical side. She's only seen the me coming in and wanting to change things around. So that's fascinating. I've experienced it a similar type of thing when I was taking on a new role, and I really did feel like I was being edusplained. But my reflection coming out of it and actually thinking about it years later, and also being back in conversations with Pam, is that her concern was for the kids. And there was a little bit in there, like she was also bothered with the fact that I was leaving that program because she actually did enjoy working with me. So there was also a little bit of that. There was layers, as you said, there were sort of layers to her response. But I don't think that there was ever any genuine concern that I couldn't do the job. It was just being forewarned, like, you got to make sure you do this thing. So it's kind of a fascinating way to try and, in a fascinating and weird way, to support somebody's career moves, to kind of like lead with a sort of a version of "I told you so" that hasn't happened yet. But that could feel like they're somehow insulting you, like you don't have the capacity. Don't worry, I got capacity. You just haven't witnessed it.
I do like that you attribute the layers comment to me. I do like that. Number one. Number two, edusplain is exactly what's happening. When I told my principal I wanted to go into guidance, he didn't look at me and say, "You know that they work in guidance, right?" Like, he didn't
exactly.
do that. He was like,
"You know, you're gonna have to do stuff, right, Chids? You know, you're gonna have to do stuff."
And you're right. I don't have to do anything over the summer, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm coming in with my arms open saying, "Okay, give it to me. How do you guys do your work?"
Yes.
How do you guys do your work? And I've been told by several of the counselors in my school that there is some stuff that can be done over the summer that they do in order to assist them with September. So I'm like, okay, well, what is it then? Because I want to know. And I had a great conversation with the program head, who gave me her position on how she operates as a leader in that department. And I told her my position too. Like, I said some things that I feel I was very clear about my intent and my approach as I come into this department. And it's like, let's just get it out into the open right away. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I said some things that I've learned about myself over the years, about what I am and what I'm not. I am a learner. I will show humility because I don't know what I'm doing, and I will tell you that I don't know what I'm doing, and I will ask you questions until you tell me to go away. Call that whatever you want to. Somebody in my house might call that my autism. I call it, what I've said was, I'm not here to pretend I'm something I'm not. So I'm not going to walk in here wanting to do everything and pretend like I can do it all. That's not happening. And I even said, maybe to my detriment, if I can't do something, I'm going to tell you I can't do that. So if I'm walking in and I don't know, you want to give me these 5 jobs to take over in the department and it's too much, I'm going to tell you this is too much. Let me learn how to do my job first, and then I'd be happy to take on these things that I would consider extra that maybe you consider just part of the job. Like, I'm happy to say that because I've been the guy that walks in and wants to do everything to overcompensate, and that doesn't work for me. It doesn't help. It doesn't make me good at why I'm actually there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, for example, one of the extracurriculars that I did this year, I've already told the school I'm not doing next year.
Yep.
And when I was talking to one of the guidance counselors, I said to him, I'm not doing that next year. I do not want to. My attention needs to be on the work that I'm doing here. And once I have this under control, like I feel like I have my IEP monitoring under control. Do I know everything? No. But can I do the basics well? Yes. It's under control. I can take other things on. And guidance is not a place where I think I should not be focused on the work, because there's real things that are going to happen that can be problematic if I don't deal with them properly. And another thing my program head said, don't worry, any mistake you make, like 99% of the mistakes you may make can be fixed. So like, don't think that you'd make a decision, there's a problem, and then you just walk away from it and ignore it. She was like, talk about it, ask questions, we can fix almost any mistake. And I'm like, I love it. This is what I need to hear in an environment where, you know, I'm counting credits wrong or something, and a kid thinks they're graduating, but they're not. Like, these are big deal things that could upset people. So you need to make sure. I get that. Anyway, having said all that, my principal didn't say to me, you know that they work in guidance, right? He was like, this is great. Awesome. Let's talk more about this. And then that makes me think that he thinks I can do the job, or that I'd be good in that role. And I would like to think that if I told him I wanted to do something that he was like, yeah, I don't think your skill set is in that space, that we would talk about it. But again, there's a lot of things that people don't talk about that they really should talk about. I think, you know how many times I've walked away from a situation where I'm like, I wonder if anybody's talked to that person about how they're operating, and that they're breaking like 7 cardinal rules of teaching. I wonder, is it my place? No, it's not my place. And even as an IEP monitor, somebody would say to me, you need to talk to that person. I'm like, well, I've spoken to them, and it's not my place to tell them how to do their job. But I have provided suggestions on, you know, you might want to operate this way with this parent because they're ready to kill all of us. And they just need a little bit of TLC. Like, they just need, this is what I think they need to bring the heat down. And then once the heat is down and they're not so emotional, then we can move in the rational direction that you want to operate in. But that parent's not operating in there, and I'm operating in the middle. I'm acknowledging their thoughts and their feelings about the situation, and I'm working with their student to make sure that accommodations are in place. And I'm working with you to, like, if you're telling me that accommodation is never going to work in your class, I respect that, but I get your position. But at the end of the day, there's a document with a list of accommodations that we're responsible for. Yep. So then how do we So the solution is we need to work together and communicate so that we can find a way that will support the student, satisfy the parent, and make sure that it's realistic for you as the teacher.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll say, well, how would you do it? I say, this is what I would do. And a lot of the time they don't like my answer because my answer is about relationship. And they're like, I don't have time for that. Like, well, then what you're going to have time for is a meeting with the VP to explain why you can't make the time to figure this out. That's between you and them, not me. So yeah, that'd be funny though if I said to my principal, "Hey, I want to do this," and they're like, "Well, hold on now, hold on." It's like my favorite has been when I talk to administrators who didn't believe I could be an administrator. I'd be like, "I'm interested in becoming an administrator." They're like, "Well," they don't come out and tell you, I'm not going to support you, but they do this little dance where they show you they're not going to support you, but they won't say it. And I'm like, why don't you just say it? Why don't you say it? Because if you don't say it, then I might think I'm going down a road. Well, I've seen this happen in real life. People get stymied. They hit the bottleneck and everybody's surprised. Why didn't you tell me you wouldn't support me? Well, no, I don't know. I've done 8 million things in this school. I'm moving in this direction, and never once did you tell me that you can't support me here. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about another situation where a teacher had an interview and was told in the debrief, your principal doesn't support your application. Dude, he had no clue. None of us did. We all looked at him like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, the SO told me that my principal doesn't support my application to move into administration. And we're like, did you know that? He's like, no. Was there ever any indication? No. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to go talk to the administrator and find out why there's never been an indication that they couldn't support me when they never said anything ever. And then the hilarious thing for us, not for him, there was 3 of us, we all looked at each other and we're like, I wonder if they feel the same way about us. And I remember talking to that administrator saying, without saying what the hell's going on with that situation, I remember saying, what do you think of my leadership skills? Like, if I were to apply for admin, would you be supportive? And I remember the principal saying, of course. The principal said to me, I've tried to get you to apply a couple of times and you just won't. And I'm like, oh, so you do support me? And she's like, yes, of course I support you. And I'm like, okay. And just looking dumbfounded. And she was probably like, what's your problem? My problem is that you floated his boat the whole time I've been here. And then when an SO called you, you were like, I don't support his application. Like, what the F is going on here? That's not cool. But this seems to happen. I've heard about it happening several times now in my district. So if it happens in my district, it's got to be happening in other districts. I'm just going to make that assumption. But it's happened several times where, well, it happened to me once where it didn't get to an application. It got to a screening application. Like, hey, if you're interested, come to this meeting and we're going to talk to you about what you have to do to become an administrator. And then I remember I put my name in to go to the meeting, and then 2 people that I know emailed me over Christmas break, and they're like, yo, we'll see you January 3rd at the board office. And I respond, I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, didn't you get the email from HR? There's a meeting. We're in the pre meeting for admin. Oh, I'm like, I never got that email. Oh, you didn't? No. So then I emailed the SO and hey, I put my name in, but I didn't hear from you. And that's when I got your principal doesn't support you moving into administration. Ah, okay. I guess I should talk to my administrator about this then. I wonder why the administrator had no problem telling the superintendent, no, I don't support him, but wouldn't tell me. That dude right there, that is a huge flag for me. I'm like, right away, you lose your leadership status with me. That's you call yourself a leader, but you won't talk to the people. I could see if I never mentioned it to them and put my name in and there was no conversation about it. But that wasn't the case with me at that time. So I've experienced it, I've seen it happen. And you know what? I'm glad it didn't work out because I am where I am now and I like where I am now. If I were an administrator, I would never be in this position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Gary and Rochelle, as you move through your leadership, it would suck for me to hear from Jimmy that, hey, did you know that I applied for leadership, but Gary told the SO no, but never talked to me about the no? And I'm telling you right now, Gary wouldn't just come out and, sorry, Gary, I'm just going to say this because this is how I feel about how you roll. I don't think Gary's going to sit somebody down and bluntly tell them that he won't support them for leadership. I think Gary will talk to them in a relational way about it. And hopefully at some point, if he's dealing with someone who's autistic, like apparently I am, he'll give them what they need for them to understand how he will and won't support them.
I can't. So there's a part of this though that not often. So what I've noticed is that for some people, they don't. This idea that anyone that is in positions of power within our organization, first, the fact that they have any ability to support every possible person that's looking to sort of grow is an impossibility. So I want to start with that only because, like in your particular case, there was some sneaky business going on. But it really makes me think around this kind of philosophical misunderstanding, I think, and practical misunderstanding about what administrators are able to spend their time on. And from my observation, the actual capacity to be growing leaders at the same time as managing the needs of the whole school and the system, there can be a massive incompatibility there between, what would be the ideal to be able to do, spend time doing, and what you actually have to do on the daily. To never have a day that ends with completion but has a constant flow to the next day is incredibly, I've noticed, can be incredibly debilitating. So you end the day, doesn't end when you get in the car, doesn't necessarily end when you're on the drive home. So there's I think a zero-sum element that has to be included in our discussions around how does leadership support aspiring leaders. That's my first thing I want to acknowledge. And again, it's not connected with your particular experience, but I do think I've heard enough versions of administrators kind of being surprised that certain individuals are aspiring to a higher position because they haven't actually demonstrated either interest, projects, or leadership according to their own layer in their particular zone, but they want the chair. So the idea that a principal, so in our system, administrators have to sign off on, the fact that someone is trying to get another job. Like, you need to have a reference from your current administrator. That layer is threaded in different ways through our whole system. So even to sort of want to become an administrator, let's say, you need to have support, as you sort of found out, from your current team. There is a caveat within ours that I think it can be an administrator from the past, but it's encouraged to be a present administrator. Now, the hook on that has to be, you have to ask yourself the question, knowing that as a candidate, I think you do have to ask yourself, has my current administrator, have I put my leadership in front of this principal? Has my leadership been on full display? Because I think it's entirely reasonable for an administrator to say, well, I can't support this person because I've actually never seen them lead, which doesn't mean that you didn't lead. It just means what you were doing didn't land in front of the person that you're asking for a reference. So there's a certain humility that I think aspiring leaders have to have, that if you're going to play the game of growth, you have to make sure that at least some of your steps take place under the smiling, sunny face of your administrator. And you got to make a note of it. Like if you're looking to sort of work the process so that there's an accountability there, not only for yourself, but for the actual administrator. Okay, I have seen their leadership. So it doesn't feel like a jab. It becomes I have seen their leadership and I kind of disagree with where they're at. Like it becomes a better discussion as opposed to, well, what did I do or not do? Well, I don't know. I never saw you lead, but you have to be my reference. Well, sorry. You get caught in this weird loop. I do think that fundamentally one of the problems with our system is that, and this kind of goes back to yours and my discussions a decade ago about micro-credentialing, is that we don't have a neutral, objective way to account for our leadership steps. And the fact that it can only come through a single pillar, as in our current administrators, that's a problem, I think. That we don't have an independent assessment tool that kind of says, okay, in this, take the leadership qualities from, I don't even remember the name of it now because I haven't thought about it. The leadership, what's the leadership framework? What's the one that's like, there's a provincial level of leadership framework. What's that called? What's that place?
Just the Ontario Leadership Framework.
Framework? Yeah. So let's say if that, let's make that just the standard. There should be an independent tool, much like a video game, that measures your levels on each of those categories. There should be an independent assessment process that isn't dependent on one administrator who does not have time to sort of manage your aspirational needs, or to manage and support everyone's aspirational needs. It is impossible. So ultimately, the administrators, because they're human, the people that are working more closely, this is why we see a high number of spec ed individuals and guidance individuals ascending into the chair, because those are portfolios that happen under the auspices, like underneath the nose of the principal, right? You're an alt ed head. You're out there in the portables, you're away from the main school, and you say, yeah, you know what? I think I want to pursue administration. Well, how the F do you do that when 95% of your efforts happen in the shadows? And this is one of the funky realities here. And let alone there's other individuals that are ascend as well. There's an inordinate amount, and you look at this. I would actually love to hear Gary's perspective on this. When you're dealing with the upper table of leadership and the SOs in your system, is there an inordinate number of elementary school superintendents? That's where they were trained, as opposed to, the distribution between secondary and elementary superintendents, like where their actual experience is. And this is similar. It's whose work is being done underneath whose nose that has the power to sort of promote. And individuals that may be fantastic leaders and rightfully should be in the chair will never have a chance, because of the time that they're spent leading in their space doesn't happen right underneath the nose of the individuals that have the power to approve it. So depending on your relationship, they might say, well, okay, let's start now then. And you think to yourself, like, holy crap, I've just spent 10 years doing these projects that have system implications. I'm leading other teachers. and it's helping students. So you're actually working in 3 different levels of system connection. But we're going to start doing this now. It was part and parcel. Last thing I'll say is that one of the stoppers, full stops for me with the administrative process was that when they said, okay, can you create a project to write that damn paper? And I'm like, I can account for my leadership within the school working at those 3 different levels. I can do a podcast on it right now. No, you have to write a paper and it has to be about a project that you start right now. It's the exact same thing. You go into these courses, none of your leadership skills matter. It only matters what you put underneath that principal who's running the OPC course. That's it. And that's the wrong way to come at this. It's discouraging, it's disrespectful, and it's in the same family of stuff of these individuals that mansplain us or edusplain us. Like, do you really understand what you're coming into? You know what this felt like, this little TED Talky thing? It felt like me like 5-6 years ago when I was all about the rant on this. It lit me up. This kind of lit me up. But I think it's still at work. I think we still see this at work, is that when I came into teaching, I got lived experience credits for the fact that I had been running restaurants. So what that did was it moved me up the pay scale. I moved up categories and years of experience because I was coming in, continuing to do something that I already had a deep set of skills in. So I got like 4 years of experience, which moved me up the sort of like the category pillar, right? Why do we not have that for admin? I don't get it. I really don't get it. They wipe your slate clean, and the only thing they account for is what either happened directly under the nose of the admin or what you're currently working on. It's bullshit, and it's discouraging.
Well, and so this is part of the game, right? Like, for example, Rochelle's saying it can be hard to put your leadership in front of the admin if they don't let you. And it's like, so I would tell anybody who tells me now as a teacher, they're like, yo, I'm interested in admin. What do you think I should do? And I'm like, I think you should talk to one of the administrators about it and let them know. Because like you just said, Chris, you could have done all kinds of amazing things. If somebody called me tomorrow, if I were an admin and somebody called me tomorrow and said, hey, Chris Clough has put his name in to the VP pool applications, what do you think? And you've never, I honestly had no idea that you had applied or you were interested, I would say that to them. I'd be like, yo, this is the first I'm hearing of this. And why would I do that? Well, because I'm not trying to sink your ship, but I'm trying to tell the SO or whoever's calling me, I can't say anything. I mean, I can tell you what I've observed. And that's why I believe it's very important that you know what your teachers are up to and how they're doing it. Like, if you see Clough, runs the TED Ed Club and Clough coaches 3 of the sports, then don't be an asshole. You see Clough leading. Clough's choosing to take on these duties that he doesn't have to do. They involve being organized. They involve being responsible and accountable. It involves clear communication. I obviously know about it because you're coaching the teams. I know you're leaving with a group of kids to go to a tournament. So don't be an asshole. This is where, for me, there's a line. I could say to the SO, oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't know Chris was applying to the VP pool. I can tell you, though, I've seen Chris, I see him lead. He does stuff. There's leadership. I don't know how in depth I can go because he didn't tell me he was applying. And I think it says somewhere in our application process that you need references, and one of them has to be your immediate supervisor. So I think that's in black and white. So the first thing I tell people is you really should let admin know you're interested, because here's the second part. Here's part of the game and the dance is that, like Rochelle said, if your administrator doesn't let you purposely take certain things on so that you can demonstrate that you can do this and you want to do this job, that's a problem. And in my system, they just tell you that, I've heard this a number of times when you talk to an SO, they'll tell you, well, then I guess you need to move schools. You need to go and work with an administrator that like you get along with or will allow you to they're willing to give you a stamp of approval. So you're going to have to leave because this one won't. And it's like, why won't they? Is it because we don't get along personally? Is it because they don't value what I call leadership? So that person sitting in the chair does have, in my district, they do have a block of power that they're getting no matter what, even if the SO might think that they're operating in a way that maybe isn't helping the teacher or whatever. They're still going to side with the administrator. That's just politics. They're going to side with the administrator, and they're going to tell you, like I've been told, you need to move schools. You need to go work for somebody who will support you this way in your plan to move into administration. And so, somebody might read Rochelle's comment and be like, what's wrong with Rochelle? Come on, Rochelle. No, I've been there. I've seen it and I've heard about it too. They don't want you to, or they don't think you can, or they're tapped out, so they're investing time in others. I don't know. There's a million different reasons. But at the end of the day, I do think it's important that if you want to be an administrator, that you talk to your current administrator, and then you figure out whether they're on board or they're not on board, because they may say, okay, if somebody came to me and said, I want to be an administrator.
Mm-hmm. Like, who are you in that?
I'm an admin. Okay.
Are you an administrator and someone's coming to you as an administrator?
I'm an administrator. If I'm an administrator and you
P or VP,
doesn't matter, because I'm still.
It might only in so much as VP doesn't deal with staff. P's do. So specifically, because depending on who you are in that, you may actually say as the VP, that's cool. You may want to talk to that. I just to sort of say that as a thing, right? Principals are staffing, VPs are students, right?
But I get that, but I'm still a leader in the school as a VP, and I can speak to. I'm still that teacher's supervisor. Maybe not their direct, but I'm administration and they're not. Yeah. But that also depends. Maybe my P has said to me, yeah, you don't do all that, or it's got to go through me. And then I would say to the teacher, hey, I know it's got to go through them. So, but I'm willing to support you, like in my experience. And if I'm not willing to support them, I should probably tell them why without being a prick about it, knowing that it's probably going to come back and haunt me. But
so let me jump in on that because this is, and I just want to say this one thing. First off, if you're not supporting someone, I don't know if your board, our board has no process, and I've asked admin about this. Our board has no process to develop. Now, you don't have to be a department head in order to become an administrator, right? You don't have to have that position of leadership. Here's the problem though. Here's the problem is that there's no space that develops someone who's going to be in the classroom that wants to get into administration. And no, the courses don't do it. They don't. There's no opportunity to look at your movement from classroom to main office in a practicum way. There's nothing. The expectation is that you kind of have to do this on your own time, right? Give up your prep. And this is just one of the realities. Give up your prep to be down in the main office, or organize conversations, your leadership conversations, which you have done and I have done. There's no method within that would give you a peek at how do I move because we're all leaders, both in air quotes and actual, we're all leaders. There's no criteria-based progression that says, Chids, as you consider this moment, it's occurred to you that you might want to, work towards becoming a VP. Here's what you got to do next. We focus solely on taking the course, and then we don't really have a path to say, well, if you've coached a team, what do you need to do with that experience in order to articulate it through a leadership lens? We come out on the other end having taken the courses. You blindly fumble towards trying to get into the pool. You interview. There's no practicum space there. And I fundamentally think that's a major flaw in our system, because what that means is, if you as the administrator, someone comes to you and says, I'm considering, you should be able to give them something concrete that says, okay, if you're stepping onto this pathway, here's how you have to start looking at your pedagogy. Here's how you have to start looking at your communications. Here's how you have to start to do this. And you need to consider how you're going to account for it and to be able to speak to it. Go away, come back once you sort of do some thinking on that. Often, I think if you're there should be no mystery, zero mystery as to, on a credential factor or an experiential factor, whether or not you are on a proper path towards the chair. Now, if it gets closer to the end in the interview, you don't match culture, the actual experiences don't align with what the current system needs, this I'm okay with being the invisible part of the process. But in my head, there's not enough checkpoints in this developmental process to go from classroom teacher to principal. There is not. And there isn't any weighting on it that says, okay, you fifth year teacher, there is zero way that I believe any fifth year teacher should ever become a VP. Zero. But it happens. There are individuals that go from 5 years in the class. It is not possible. There is just no way, apart from you're just a really good student and you are able to answer according to whatever the questions are, which is another part of the process, right? You have to be able to answer the questions. I just don't believe that anyone that's spent 5 years in the system is ready to lead a school. But there's something that they've done that has gotten them there. Obviously, it does happen. So again, that is kind of mysterious to me. And when I see mystery at this point in my career, having spent 2 decades observing it, that's a problem. And it's also prohibitive. It means that there's individuals that either A, won't buy into that game because I'm coming with experience that won't be accounted for, or you're going to have individuals that are misguided. They're going to be told that you should try and do this, and there'll be no space given for the experience they are bringing. There's no way to account for it. Yet there's no sort of middle line of checklist. Is that, okay, you coached a team, you want to claim that as experience. Here's where that particular experience, according to our marking scheme, only gets you a level 2. So now if you choose to coach again, you can bring that up to a level 4 if you're able to do these other things with that coaching experience. That's the missing piece for me, and that's a major, major problem. I think we need to defang and disempower and deregulate administrators to a degree that if they can't spend one-to-one time, there's still an independent tool that allows someone coming through to be successful. It's mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing.
I totally agree with you. And this is, so for me, this is what I would say to somebody who does these things, these leadership activities at the school and initiatives. I would be like, find a way, look at the leadership framework, and then figure out how your leadership work and initiative in the school fit with the Ontario leadership framework. Can you speak to those pillars? And how do you speak to those pillars? It may not be the answer, but it's a great starting point if you're having a conversation with your administrator or with the superintendent about these things. and you're able to explain how the work you're doing is leadership as connected to the province's leadership framework, and we have the Catholic framework. That's a great starting point for them to say, like, that's what I tell people to do, and that's why the things I do, I connect to that framework. So when somebody says, "Well, how do you secure accountability?" Because that's one of the pillars. Say, "Well, this is what I've done. This is what I would do here. This is what I would do there." And then there's also room for I don't know what that looks like in certain situations, but when I was running this project, when I was doing this initiative at the school, this is how I secured accountability. This is, you know what I mean? So, this is how, the work I did here benefited the school community, the parents, the students, the administrators, my colleagues. They could disagree, but at the end of the day, you're having a conversation that is steeped in a framework that was created to help build leaders and to help leaders focus on the different expectations of what it means to be a leader in our system in Ontario's publicly funded schools. Um, Rochelle said that we have something called developing the leader within, but that's for any staff group. We don't have a practicum.
Mm-hmm.
And she also agreed with what you were saying. So I just think it can be murky waters. It shouldn't be. And I think and I agree with you, this 5-year thing. Dude, I've recently seen certain people become consultants at very small time in the classroom, and I just shake my head. I don't care how good of a teacher you are in the classroom. For you to be in a position to be advising other teachers, there should be some body of work, and I don't think 5 years is enough. I really don't.
I would be comfortable saying 5 years-ish for department head, 5 to 10 to become a curriculum consultant or a VP, plus 10, you're in the 10 to 15 before you get to apply to the principal pool to actually become a principal. I think you need to be somewhere in that 15 to 20 years in the system to be an effective principal. So that would be from a career start, right? Like, so this is like when you're coming in out of uni, you're 20 years old, 25 years old. Like you don't get to become a principal until a principal. VP is different. VP I would put in the consultant stage. Like if you can operate as an effective consultant and having to navigate the bureaucracy of that and the leadership that comes along with that, because consultancy really does become leading other adults. Like that's your space, right? And you've already proven at that point that you've been in the classroom, so you can work with kids in theory. So I think that would be okay. After that 10-year mark, you could apply to become a VP or try to become a consultant. And then you do that for a chunk. And then 15 to 20 year zone, you're sort of saying, okay, I think I could do a principalship. 20 plus minimum to apply to be an SO in education, 20 plus. You got to be. I don't believe there should be any SO with less than 20 years experience in education. And ideally, if you're aiming for SO, you have experience at both elementary and secondary. You don't get to become an SO if you've never done work at elementary and secondary. That should be the prerequisite that, okay, you're considering becoming an SO. Hello, principal who's been, on cruise control in secondary. You now have to do some time at elementary. And then we'll see whether or not you can apply. So you're going to have to actually shift over to elementary. I do believe that experience builds the appropriate fiber in your curriculum vitae Is that curriculum vitae? How do you say that?
I say
vitae.
curriculum vitae. That's what I say.
That's what I want to say too. I think it builds the appropriate fiber and connective tissue in your CV to be able to say that you can actually do the job of super, and then you get to retire out in super. Fine, be super for the next 10 years, apply to be assistant director, but you've put in a good chunk of time in the system. You get it.
So I don't disagree with you, but I do believe that if that's how you want to roll, then you have to have some type of process or protocol in place to support. Because here's the thing, people say this, but then they don't build in any support. They don't build in a process. So I'll give you an example. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of far-fetched, but look at my situation. So I'm in elementary, right? No plan to move to secondary, but then I find a really cool job that wedges me in between both. And then I see the value that I can bring to secondary, and I see the spark in me that helps me feel alive again. Okay. And I'm on a committee that talks about equity and inclusion and how to maybe some of the gaps we have in the system and what we need to do to try to fill them or to address the situations so that in the next 10 to 15 years, we start to fill these gaps. Okay, so all good stuff. But then I say, well, I'm raising my hand. I want to be part of this process. I want to be one of the people to start this. So how do I do this? And then you get we can't do that. Well, we're talking about it here. We're talking about here are the holes we need to fill. Here are the gaps. Have I not demonstrated to you that I'm a valuable person in this process? I have all this experience in elementary. I found this wedge to let me see what's happening in secondary. I'm giving my personal time to be on these committees to develop professionally and to help the system move forward. And a number of different things that I'm not going to rhyme about right now. But all the building blocks are there, in my opinion. And then when you say, okay, well, let me be part of this, they're like, well, hold on. There's all these, you can't just move from elementary to secondary. Why not? Well, the union says this and we say that. And it's like, well, hold on here. Maybe then we should start looking at the problems we have in filling those gaps, because you want to fill them with brand new candidates out of the faculty of ed who don't have any experience. I'm generalizing, right? There could be people coming second career who have a wealth of knowledge and experience in certain areas, but they're like, no, these people don't have what we need. I've got what you need, but you're not willing to invest in me or to create a process to help me move and to do the things I want to do. Why? Well, then you start to see the invisible rules and regulations. And I've said this to Gary. I remember talking about Gary about my possible move into guidance one day. And I remember saying to Gary, maybe Gary doesn't remember, but I remember saying, is the unwritten rule that I just arrived in the secondary going to get in my way? Who's going to be the person that says, you can't put him in guidance? He just walked in the building. There are people waiting in line. There's the invisible line, right? Nobody talks about it, but it's there. Jimmy's been here for 7 years and he wants guidance. So you're not going to get it over Jimmy. I'm like, well, what about my skill set? What about all the things that you keep telling me I have that would be beneficial there? Well, you got all that and it's good, but you don't have the 7 years. And I'm like, I call bullshit. I didn't just wake up and become a teacher yesterday. So let's talk about this, right? Like, who's willing to talk to me about this? And what do we do next? So if an SO needs to have elementary and secondary experience, which I do not disagree with you on, what can districts do to allow that to happen? How does that work? You start off as admin, you start off as a high school teacher, you become a VP in high school, and you become a P. Now, I think it's easier for Ps and VPs because they can just, I think in my district, if you're a VP in secondary and you want to be a VP in elementary, then you apply to the pool and then you go through the process. But if you're a teacher in elementary or secondary, it's easier in my district to go from secondary to elementary. But if you're in elementary and you want to go into secondary, traditionally it's been very difficult and the door's been closed for many years. I got lucky, and you know what luck is, putting in the work and the opportunities arise, where for a few years that door was open and I made it in. But it seems like it might be closed again. And I know they're changing the rules and all that to make it less, no, it's locked and nobody has the key to that door. But if you're going to make that happen, if you need this to happen to proceed in your career, then I believe districts have to make it more accessible for people, instead of just saying, well, no, you're in elementary and yeah, we get you've been a great elementary teacher, you've been a great elementary VP, great elementary principal, but you can't be an SO, you have no high school experience. Well, I tried to move when I was an elementary teacher, I tried to move to high school, but you guys said every year that it was closed. There were no positions open. But then you turn around, you hire 15 brand new people out of the faculty of ed to get these high school jobs. But I'm telling you, I want to go high school, and you say no for the reasons you have. Like, I think there's a lot of unwritten stuff. And I was dealing with it, as you know, when I was saying to people, I know I've only been here for 2 years. I get that. So in the building, I get that there's that unwritten rule and culture that, no, he's a newbie. What do you mean you're considering him for guidance? He just got here. Well, if you just slow down a minute and you look at my curriculum vitae, many people would say I'm a great candidate to be a guidance counselor. But if you're steeped in the culture of the building and all the unwritten rules, then you'd be like, no way in hell should he be going to guidance this early. He hasn't earned it. Well, there is that perspective, but there's also, I would argue, that over the years, I've demonstrated my skill set. I've shown interest, commitment, engagement, collaboration, and built relationships with people. And so what are you going to tell me now? That all of that is useless? That's a damn shame if that's the case, because I've been working to get to where I am today for the last 25 years. I didn't know it, but I've been working towards it. And people might still say, it doesn't matter, Chidiac. Doesn't matter, dude. You just got here. I've talked to Gary about this. How much of this is going to get in the way? And Gary, being the good friend and the open educator, has said, well, Gary didn't push back and say, definitely, you've only been there for 2 years. There's no way in hell. Gary was like, well, you just keep talking to people and you keep doing your work and you take it from there, kind of thing.
Well, this is what I was saying too. You're putting your work in front of people that have power.
Right.
So you're putting it right under their nose. If someone were to say to me, if I were, not to be an admin, I'm not an administrator. Someone just mentioned to me that they're planning on going into admin. So let's say they're in that 5 to 10 range. I would first off tell them that I would ask them what their reflective practice is. I would say, if they did have a reflective practice, I would say, how have you categorized those experiences such that you can easily start to create experiences that match the marking scheme? And in order to do that, you're going to need to talk to admin. You're going to need to be able to talk to the system, and you might have to look at the leadership competencies right away. And I would say third, every single time you're developing something, get it into a proof of concept. Don't ask for permission, just do it. Show that intention, show that you want to build something for the school that you can see that the school could need according to your perspective. I said, be groundbreaking. When it's in motion, you bring it to an administrator and you use them as a collaborator. If you need resources, money, you need someone to open a door, use it that way. Don't go to them and say, Because as it stands right now, don't go to them and say, is this valuable leadership experience? That's your work to figure out. But bring it to them in a in-motion product and put them in the loop that you're doing a thing. Make a notation that you did, that you brought it to their attention. Send the email afterwards thanking them for them and that you want to do a follow-up in a couple of weeks after the project has already been in motion. And then you have a fully encapsulated kind of experience that you should be able to speak to when and if you decide to interview for the VP position. But I would say you have to now go from this sort of social, like, so I can see Rochelle, it used to be you had to be tapped by a principal or SO to even consider being administration. It's not used to be, that still happens. The tapping still happens to the point where, you know, sometimes I think, do they get a free toaster for this? Like, is it them upselling somehow, right? It's kind of funny. It still happens. Is it something that, you know, in Rochelle saying that, is it still cloaked in certain silos, as in certain people only get tapped in certain moments by other certain people? Sure. Not everyone gets the tap. I will say more so now, the tap doesn't necessarily lead to the chair. I think it's less so that the tap leads to the chair, but it's nice to get the tap. It's nice to get the tap. I got the tap a couple times. As it ended up, not for me. Just not for me. Thanks for the tap, but not for me. But yeah, I think that if someone were coming into it, just starting the process, I would actually say remove the administrator from your process altogether. Do not rely on them to give you permission to do something that you see the school needs. Put it in front of the individuals that you need resources from, bring it to them as something in motion, and just start to develop, start to grow it. Give yourself an experience that highlights your leadership capabilities and that shows you as a standout candidate even before you're in the process. And I said, just keep going and then keep going.
One last thing I want to say is that when I moved into secondary, I reached out to a former administrator, secondary administrator, said, hey, I just made the jump to secondary. And eventually I'd like to get the guidance. As a former administrator, secondary administrator, what would please give me any advice that you think is worthy? And this former administrator, I've gotten to know over the years. So me reaching out, it wasn't a cold call. It was, hey, I did it. It's happening. What should I do now? And he was amazing in his response to me. But I believe that part of that amazing is because there was a relationship. He knew a little bit about me. He had known me for years now. It wasn't just, who the F is this guy reaching out to me? And he said, if I were the school principal, this is what I'd love to see from you. To see, not necessarily from me, from anybody who comes to me and tells me that they'd like to be a guidance counselor in my building. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm paying attention to. And it was I took it as great advice. You know, how are you serving the community? How are you operating in a way that demonstrates that you have a skill set that will be helpful in that department? Because they don't just want anybody. They want certain kinds of people who will operate a certain way with kids and with situations. Right? It's like you don't want to hire somebody to be an administrator who's constantly negative and pushing back on people and being aggressive. I would think that that's not what you're looking for when you want somebody sitting in that chair leading a school community, the people in the school and the community outside the school. You don't want someone who's constantly looking for conflict. Now, it's good to have a little bit of a balance, somebody who will engage in conflict and not be scared of it, but at the same time is a relational person. They can get along with people. They know how to speak to people. They're respectful, but they're also accountable. I could be wrong, but these are the things that I think you want in an administrator. Anyway, all that to say is that I took what that person gave me like a checklist, and I was like, this is great, because some of these things I already do and people already know. But there are these other things that I need to work on, and I need to bring that to the attention of the leadership in my building. And so last year when I was doing my TPA And my VP said to me, what are you thinking about in terms of your career? Like, where do you see yourself going? I said, I want to be a guidance counselor. And my administrator was supportive, but I felt as though there was I don't know if that's going to happen with the remainder of your career. They didn't say it, but I got a vibe. Okay. Knowing this person, I got a vibe. But they said to me, okay, well, I'm going to help you by providing, I'm going to send things your way when they come across my desk and my email that are clearly guidance related things. Are you okay if I forward them to you so that you're aware of kind of what's happening and the things that you should be looking at and learning more about? I'm like 100%. And over the last year, I've gotten a handful of emails from this VP alerting me to things that are happening in the community or things that are happening within the school system that would be good for me to know and understand in terms of pathways and SHSM and all these other things that are guidance related that I wouldn't normally have access to because I don't live in that world. And I've been very appreciative of that because it's kept me like hungry to understand the connections and then hungry on how I can apply these things without being a wannabe. Oh, there's Roland, the wannabe guidance counselor again. No, I'm an IEP monitor, but these are the connections I'm making and the skills I'm applying and the knowledge I'm applying to show you that I can operate in your realm. I'm just doing it from my I'm in my lane, but I'm also able to support the guidance perspective of it, which is pretty cool because I work with some great guidance counselors who have been very good at involving me and letting me know how they finish a situation. Situation starts, I make the referral, and then I say, hey, can you please tell me what you're doing? Not because I'm a gatekeeper, but I want to know what happens now. This is what I did to help this student. What do you do now to carry this forward and make this happen? They're like, yeah, sit down. Let's talk about this. This is what I'm going to do next. This is what I did. Didn't work. So now this is what I'm going to do. This is who I need to talk to. And I'm like, my mind was blown, but I brought that on. I'm like, I want to know. What do you do with it? And now when I found out I was going to be a guidance counselor and I'm having these conversations with the counselors, I'm like, oh my God, what do you do next? And they just smile. I'm like, I need to know because I'm going to be doing this in September. What do we do next? And it's a different layer of engagement because I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to be doing that. So now it's like, I can't just do this. Like I'm out for fun. Tell me what you're going to do next. Now it's like, I'm invested. Like I just made this decision around the IEP. What are you going to do with that now? So, it's interesting. And start early. That's what I would say too. Start early, or know that if you wake up today and you're like, I want to be an administrator, it's not going to happen in the next year. It's just not. Unless you're a superstar and you've been building towards it without purposely building towards it, but you have everything in line. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I think it's not, for me, it's not start early. It's just start immediately.
Well, and know that it's going to take time.
Of course, you accept that. There's a process here. I think there should be zero mystery about the process of becoming an administrator, and nothing that actually limits you becoming an administrator, other than, let's say, diplomatic competition for the same job. The only X factor for me is if you're an asshole. Like, that's the one thing. You actually aren't a good human. And part of that can be suggestive of the type of experiences you stack up as far as leadership. Someone can see, they can kind of measure your understanding of equity and needs. They can measure your understanding of culture and spiritual pathways. They can measure as far as your connective tissue within the community, and if you're sort of only staying in one flavor, by your actual leadership experiences, which can all be very effectively framed and spoken to. But if you're an asshole, right, that's the tripping factor.
But I don't think they're going to tell you you're an asshole. And I think
they wouldn't have to, but that will happen in the interview. Of course, it's not going to be a part of the criteria, but that's the magic. That's the whatever the ratios are, right? They'll say, okay, it's out of 100 possible marks, 55 of those marks are going to come from your interview, or 55% is the interview. That tells me that when the door is closed, you're giving executive decision over the admin on the marking scheme. Now, again, the marking scheme is the marking scheme, and I know it's become far more formalized in the last few years. It's also why often there's the two principals in there, because one is furiously writing down notes so they can measure the responses against the marking scheme. This is the process when you get in the room. But the fact that 55% or whatever it is, it's like, 55 of 100 marks are for the interview, 20 is for your reference, whatever is left, 10 and 15 is for your cover letter and your resume, right? In declining, the smallest portion of it is your actual resume, I believe. So in that sort of like the way that those discrete measurements, the asshole part does come out in the room, and there's an element. I'm okay with that being there's something subjective about that part of the process. But as far as what you ultimately are going to put on paper that says, yes, you qualify even to be a part of this interview, that's what's mysterious to me. And the process by which a classroom teacher can convert, transcribe, transmute, and begin to understand themselves through that leadership lens is far too ethereal. It's far too. And if you're a great student, maybe you'll figure it out. If you're not a great student, but you are a great connector and a great teacher, you might have trouble prepping for that interview, which ultimately comes down to, did you answer the questions within a very specific format so that your words can match up to, your words have to match up to the marking scheme. The marking scheme doesn't have to necessarily bend. And if you don't say it, oh well, your score is lesser than another candidate. And that particular framework is pretty much how it is for interviewing teachers as well, right? I hope that someone's helping those teachers with their interview process coming into a school. I don't know if sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But in some ways, to have a nice matrix, a progression of skills as how do you interview for the teaching job? How do you interview for a POR? How do you interview for the consultancy? How do you interview for the VP? And how do we see this as a progressive and a cumulative type of process, sequential even? How do we see that so that when you stand at the base of that mountain, if we want to make it that, or at the outset of that huge field that you're about to walk across, that landscape, that the map is there. You just have to make sure that you are having the experiences at each of the checkpoints that allow you to move on to the next step. So I've always, and again, this goes all the way back to our micro-credentialing conversation, this idea that we can be doing these things in isolation that satisfy. We tell ourselves, this is important for me to learn right now, and I'm going to use it in my classroom. But unless you find the universal translator function to make it obvious, clear, and anchored, whoever has power over you will not be able to sort of account for it. They'll think, that's fantastic. Thank you for being such a great teacher. But I can't support you in this process because it doesn't match up with our criteria or the other framework. There's too much mystery there for me.
Oh man, I didn't mean to take it in this direction, but here we are. Show me your process. Oh, Hazel.
She's out. She's out. If she were a cat, she'd be purring right now. She's just like
we went into 2-hour territory.
Rogan territory. We went Rogan.
Okay. Any final words?
No. I'm gonna go weed. I'm gonna go weed the garden.
I'm gonna go make breakfast unless Sarah's already made it. But
I hope she has for you. I hope there's something hot and ready there.
I was planning on making something for her. So let's see how this plays out. Rochelle and Gary, thanks for checking us out. Have a great weekend as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for your time. to Gary and Rochelle and anybody and everybody else who listens to this. This was a hot one. At least
hot.
for me.
This was a hot summer.
Hot
boy summer. Hot boy. Hot summer boy. Hot summer boy teacher. Who knows? I just made that cringy.
And on that note, Gary says he loves it. I don't think he loves the cringe, but
that's okay.
Okay. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. And this was season 9, episode 39, number 387 of the Decoded podcast. See ya. Peace.
Ciao, man.